people, the greatest words a citizen of any country should love to hear. There is only one country that has those words, and that is the United States. The greatest country on Earth's history for their citizens. That is why all other countries and individuals around the world are trying to extract as much out of it as possible. That is also why we have federal law violation of immigration. They enter the country and extract what they can and send it back to their home countries. Now, there is a lot to unload here. I'm going to talk about a lot of different things that will lead into this. Are we in a civil war? We were called the rebellious nation. We were the nation that rebelled against a world leader and then went to war with it, and we won our freedom. As time went on, we had to fight and prove ourselves on the world stage with wars and humanitarian negotiations with other nations. With decades of doing this, we have proved ourselves, and now the world looks to us for leadership. For help, they call us, they cry out for us, and we respond. I remember during one of the famines in the past, there was a reporter videoing and interviewing the victims. Then one person cried out, "Where is the United States? We need help." After hearing that, it sent chills up my spine. Not a bad thing. This was a person that knew about the United States helping nations, a giant standing amongst others. It took some time, but the United States did respond. I loved seeing the American flag flying overhead, helping people that were starving and in desperate need. That, I believe, is one small part of America. In our hearts, there are a lot of Americans that want to help others. That is one of our fundamentals, one of our foundations. We as a country help more people than any other single nation or combined. The U.S. has federal aid that all taxpayers pay into. Then we also donate to private NGOs that also bring in aid. No other nation can claim the same. Are we in a civil war? We have to look back decades ago with our politicians. They began legislating the fight out of us after the first Civil War. They say we are a civilized society, a sophisticated society. Personally, myself, I think they were looking at their vanity. In my humble opinion, the other world leaders still looked at the United States with disapproval, that we were a nothing burger. And the words of a U.S. politician didn't mean much because they were sophisticated and we as Americans were not. So when you look at what's going on now, it's just a continuation of that. The only difference is today, there's no external enemy that we can all agree on to blame for our problems, so we're fighting each other. It's us versus them. And the agenda of the politicians is to keep us divided so that we don't see how they are the problem. They are the corruption. They are the ones who have failed us over and over again. I'm sorry to be so direct, but that's the truth. So until we get to the point where we stop fighting each other and we go after them, we are not going to have any real change in this country. We're going to continue to be a banana republic. Anyway, these weak-minded politicians then began legislating the fight right out of us, one generation after another. As the U.S. grew on the world stage, we as the people also began relying more and more on the government for things. These weak-minded politicians liked it. They wanted more. They began a power trip. We traded one tyrant 4,000 miles away for 4,000 tyrants 1 mile away. But we were blinded by their lies, their bluster. We wanted to believe these weak-minded politicians and what they said. Oh, look how powerful we are, how strong we are, how great we are. We're not. We're weaker than you think. We're just a nation of sheep. You know, I've been called a lot of things, but I've never been called a sheep before. I think that's a first. Anyway, don't believe everything you see on TV, folks. Don't believe these politicians. They're not looking out for you. They're looking out for themselves. They want power. They want control. They want to be like the tyrants of old. Don't let them do it. As time went on and decades came and went, these weak politicians began hollowing out America and their people by agreeing to globalism. See, these nations wanted what America had, power and money, lots of money. The old saying about America from foreign nations, other nations work to live. America lives to work. We were the powerhouse of manufacturing. Yeah, they were right. We were. Undeniably, we had a very strong work ethic. That was one of America's fundamentals. Many Americans today look for work-life balance. Well, after the 40s, we had a work-life balance. My mom stayed home and my dad went to work. He came home at a reasonable time in the evening. Mom made dinner, and we all met at the same time around the dinner table. We talked about our day, what the plans for the weekend were, and even where we were going on vacation. After dinner, then we spent time together as a family. We might have been doing different things, but we were in the same room together. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss today. That connection with your family members. Not just living under the same roof, but actually being in the same room at the same time. Talking to each other. Playing games together. Eating meals together. It's so important for the well-being of the family unit. That was work-life balance. Then these weak-minded politicians got into power generation after generation, and they twisted the American fundamentals. They began hollowing out the manufacturing, and at the same time telling us as Americans, this is a good thing. We will be able to buy cheap-costing crap. Don't you want cheap-costing crap? Yeah, they're right about one thing. It's cheap, all right? But it's the crap that is cheap. If anything, the price inflated because of these foreign nations and these weak-minded politicians. We as Americans barely have any manufacturing left. Now we have to pay tariffs to other countries to bring our products into them, and some nations never allowed our products in. Our politicians and lobbyist groups, they're either very gullible and dumber than a shit brick house, or they are corrupt and greedy, and they took money from other parties who have interests in seeing American manufacturing gutted so that they could ship their crap into our country. For decades, we had a trade deficit with China, a massive trade deficit. They were dumping their cheap goods into our country, and we weren't allowed to dump our goods into their country because they had tariffs and quotas and all sorts of protections. They didn't want competition. Well, now these same foreign nations, including China, are allowed to bring their crap into our country for very little tariffs or no tariffs at all. So, of course, our American manufacturing can't compete with that. That is the fault of our weak-minded politicians and lobbyist groups. There's no silver bullet to fix this problem. It's going to take years to fix this. But if we keep electing people who are as dumb as the people who are trying to destroy our country, then we don't deserve to win. Now, America is being hollowed out. The citizens are becoming desperate, and they're looking to these weak-minded politicians for answers. They feed us lies. Then they overspend. They tell us we need to spend more. So they send our blood and treasure to foreign countries, and we keep fighting wars that do not make any sense. They keep spreading American hard work and wealth across the globe while our own country is falling apart. For decades they've done this, just feeding us lies and giving a fraction of our tax money to us. Most of it goes to other nations. So now we have a choice. Either we're going to continue down this path and watch our country burn, or we're going to take a different path, a new path that leads to prosperity and victory. But we can't do it without you. We need your help to take back control of our government and make sure that our voices are heard. Many people are looking to the European nations because they're getting socialist programs. They have the perfect work-life balance. Why is that? It's because of us. That's right. The U.S. citizen paid for that, by allowing manufacturing companies to leave the country and pay foreign nations from our blood and treasure, and America continuously paying to keep NATO going. They can now spend their gross domestic product money on their citizens while we struggle. See, many Americans are gullible. These weak-minded politicians, and other groups, say the U.S. has failed us. Well, that's what they want you to think. The real reason is, the politicians failed. The Republic never did. Now there are groups that want the United States to become a socialist nation. They call it democratic socialism. I call them commies. These individuals and groups are seeing the opportunity and the gullible of Americans, and they are feeding off of this. Again, these individuals and groups are lying to you. But they aren't looking past what is in front of them. They aren't seeing past the box. The average American citizen is only looking where the blinders allow them to see, and those blinders were put on by these weak-minded politicians. And in my humble opinion, these weak-minded politicians create more issues for the American citizen this way. We don't catch on to what they are doing. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't real issues in this country that need to be addressed. Of course there are. Because if you really believe in what you're doing, then you wouldn't be willing to compromise your morals and your ethics to get it done. You would be willing to walk so that your convictions are strong and you don't fall in line with the other side because you believe that what you're doing is right. These democratic socialists hate this country. I do believe that these people really want authoritarianism for this country. They don't want people to be independent, free. These people want the boot on your head keeping you down. And in my humble opinion, I really do think they believe that they will be in a position of power if they succeed in overthrowing this government. Now, let's recap. I know it's long and confusing. There is a lot to unpack here. This is decades of failures from our politicians, lobbyists, NGOs. They are the true failures of our republic. We have foreign nations that whined and cried that they couldn't compete with us. So they put tariffs on our products, right? So that was bad. Then our leaders caved and said, okay, we'll give you what you want. American manufacturing, even with foreign tariffs put on American products, still remains strong. But then the world decided we need to create globalism. In my humble opinion, this was the only way to compete and even maybe beat the American manufacturing juggernaut, the determination and the work ethic of Americans. This globalism didn't happen overnight. This was happening and continues to happen today. In order for America to compete and get into the foreign markets, plus make cheaper crap, they need to move to these foreign nations, leaving America behind. This has devastated towns. It's made Americans desperate and angry. For generations, they've seen people struggle, lose things, become homeless, turn to alcohol and drugs to escape the horror that they're facing, and then others become angry after seeing the devastation and the desperation, and they blame the Republic for this. And it's not the Republic's fault. It is our weak-minded politicians. And then you have individuals that just hate this country and want it to burn, and they will do whatever it takes to make it happen. Then you have foreign nations and foreign individuals that are extracting as much as they can out of America, and they send this money back to their home countries for their benefit. And you have these same weak-minded politicians that spread our blood and our treasure global-wide for various pet projects. And then you have the same weak-minded politicians that lie to our faces during the election years. They promise us things that they will never do or have the intention to do. But we as a nation are desperate and demoralized that we want to believe what they're saying. So we elect them into office. You know what happens when you have a broken system? The people at the top don't get replaced. You know what happens when you have a broken system? The people at the bottom suffer. Finally, we have a politician that is incorruptible. We as a nation have no idea how to deal with this. This president is finally standing up and saying our nation first, our citizens first, we the people. Half the country really doesn't know how to handle this. They look to the old established politicians, and these weak-minded people say get angry, hate, attack. Because they know if this president rips the blinders off the people, they will be exposed for what they have done to the American people. These foreign nations are also scared, because they're afraid the American gravy train is coming to an end. They're going to have to finally invest into their own countries, and that's what the elites don't want. They want to keep the gravy train going. They want to keep getting the money. We, the people, the greatest words a citizen of any country should love to hear. There is only one country that has those words, and that is the United States. The greatest country on Earth's history for their citizens. That is why all other countries and individuals around the world are trying to extract as much out of it as possible. That is also why we have federal law violation of immigration. They enter the country and extract what they can and send it back to their home countries. Now, there is a lot to unload here. I'm going to talk about a lot of different things that will lead into this. Are we in a civil war? We were called the rebellious nation. We were the nation that rebelled against a world leader and then went to war with it, and we won our freedom. As time went on, we had to fight and prove ourselves on the world stage with wars and humanitarian negotiations with other nations. Are we in a civil war? No, I don't think we are in a civil war. I believe this is a civil strife, a prelude to a civil war. But I do believe our republic is strong enough to endure this. Our current president will need to openly talk about what these weak-minded politicians and lobbyists have done to us. We need to have the Supreme Court outlaw lobbying groups. They are the real reason our voices have been watered down. They have the money. They have the ears of our politicians, and they are not part of our Constitution. These groups were added decades later when they saw an opportunity at parties and back-office deals. Our republic works. Our republic will stand once we get these individuals and groups out of our Congress and Congress returns to the public. Our voice will then ring loud once again. Let me know if you agree or disagree. If you have anything to add to the conversation, like, share, subscribe, and catch you on another one.